Me too. Give me 1 minute. I
Okay.
want to switch over to my TinBiscuit stream, but I'm pretty sure I still have Keanu Reeves from our last talk.
All right.
So I need to, I need to
There
change
he
that to
is.
something more appropriate. I'm not really sure what to put up for number stations, but
Um,
how about some
I don't know.
radio waves?
If you can find a picture of the numbers from the Matrix, that would work. Sort of. Or just
Kind of. I got a good one.
quickly paint something that's just a bunch of numbers.
Create something custom.
Yeah, Horror Historian has
in
it.
stream.
The count from Sesame Street.
Sesame Street. I got something we can use. Kind of. Anyway, well, that's good enough. Anyway.
Yeah,
no. Number stations.
Yes, number stations. So this you thought of this one. This was your idea.
I did. I gave before I connected with you, I gave my stream a quick overview of how I came across number stations, but I was about 15 or 16 years old.
I would like to know how you came across this.
Yeah, I don't remember like the exact details of how I found it. I'm pretty sure I was like 15 or 16 years old in the deep depths of YouTube and came across the actual number station recordings. And so I started listening to them. I was really creeped out because it was like late at night. I was alone in my room. It was great. And so I started diving into number stations, like history, what they were, all sorts of numbers, like station recordings. And then I actually got into like one-time pad encryptions and cryptography and code breaking, because that's kind of like a parallel topic.
Mm-hmm.
But it was all very interesting. So
all right, that's fair enough. I started looking into it and I was like, how did she even come across this? Because it is super obscure.
It is. I found it a long time ago.
But it's I was reading into it and it's pretty interesting. I gotta say, it's pretty interesting. At first, I thought there wouldn't be enough to talk about, but I think that between the two of us and with your already expertise on the subject, we'll be fine.
Yes. Okay. I mean, I wouldn't call myself an expert. It's been a long time since I've kind of really dug into it. But I'm interested and ready to talk about it.
All right. So, do you want to start us off?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I guess that I'll give you guys sort of like a general overview of what number stations are. So basically, number stations are broadcasts, radio broadcasts over shortwave radio. They've got super strong signals. They're on very rigid time schedules, and they've been happening for about, I don't know, maybe over the course of 30 years. I think that they are, I don't know, they were confirmed as showing up during World War II, but potentially could have occurred like during World War I time, I think. Yeah. So as of today, there aren't as many of these number stations, but essentially shortwave radio, these stations would pop out of thin air and just start spewing these lines of numbers. I think some of we'll go into this a little bit, I guess, but a lot of the ones from the past will also incorporate some kind of music or like
some sort of identifier.
Notes. Yeah, some sort of identifier. I think the ones today are a little more straightforward. No numbers, mostly music, or I mean, sorry, other way. No music, mostly numbers. But I think the most accepted theory for these number stations is that they are basically messages for spies.
Right.
And I don't think I don't from my research, some people said it isn't quite confirmed, and some people said it is pretty much confirmed that they're spy stations. I don't know if you saw anything else on that, Tin
Um,
Man, of like
just
whether I don't know.
basically that it, there's been there's been a few like um trials brought forth about they're like, oh well, you're sending code, you're doing spy stuff in our country, and we don't like it because of these number stations. They like took people to trial about it. So I think that it's pretty much widely accepted that yeah, this is um uh
It's
shoot.
definitely spies.
Yeah, it's definitely spies. So I was thinking about this today, right? And my thought process was, so these number stations are for two types of people. You're either really paranoid that someone is doing something under your nose in your country, or you are also doing something under the nose of someone else in someone else's country, and so you know that they are doing something under your nose in your country.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's there's I mean, I guess it could just be a random like, oh, maybe somebody really likes numbers, and they like to listen to this on the dot at this exact time every single day. But that would be a little bit. I know, I know we're talking about number stations and spies, but thinking that someone might just really like numbers
They
is
just like numbers a lot.
right. Is just it's a little bit too far out there for me.
Yeah, I mean, when I was looking at this, I was trying to figure out like realistically, what else could these be? Whether or not they're for spies, I think that could be, I think that's the part that I could see changing. Maybe it's not specifically spies. I mean, maybe it's just other people sending messages. I don't know, but you can't really get away from the fact that it's got to be some kind of code,
Oh yeah,
right?
for sure.
Because the
Um,
numbers, they happen in a pattern, there's different identifiers, I don't know, telling people when the code stops.
mhm.
There's, like, test codes, and there are certain strings of numbers that denote test codes versus codes with messages. So, I don't know. I mean, I feel pretty confident in saying that these are most likely spy stations.
Yeah, I would say it's a very good chance that it's spy related. Um, but there are things that I guess there are things that you could use it for, um, other than spies, which would be other things that are less than savory things. So like
Yeah, but you could think
criminal,
about all sorts of bad things that
yeah,
they
well,
could
like
be
like
linked
criminal
to.
things. You could maybe like send stuff in code that way. Um, through these number stations because from what I was understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like anybody can listen to these, and it probably wouldn't be that hard to create your own, um, because as long as you know the frequency and have a setup, which probably wouldn't be that hard to create, honestly, um, you could theoretically probably just create your own, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a couple of points to that. First of all, what I think is super cool about number stations is number one, the fact that anybody can listen to these. You could be some Joe Schmo off the street. If you have a shortwave radio, you can probably tune into them. But the second part is even though anyone in the world can listen to these messages, they are completely anonymous, untraceable, one-time pad encryptions
Mhm.
that you cannot solve. So I just think that's like the idea of that is really cool. That they are, I mean, obviously not a ton of people are into shortwave radios.
Right.
Um, But just the fact that people have access to it, anyone in the world could be listening, but like they're never gonna know what they say.
Right.
It's just really cool to me. So to your other point, the fact that anyone could potentially just create their own number station, I think that one of the things I was reading was sort of the one of the reasons that people link this to spy activity
Hmm.
is the broadcast signal of the stations.
Okay.
They're very strong and very clear. So I don't know if that was implying that potentially you, like a normal person, wouldn't be able to, I don't know, replicate that kind of broadcast or that kind of power, and that it was more of like a government sort of thing. But I'm not entirely sure about that.
Okay, that's fair. Um, let's see. So I was reading that they're like you said they're really a strong signal,
Mm.
so you can hear them like continent wide, apparently.
Yeah.
Which to me is insane.
Yeah.
Considering, I mean, I know it's different, but like let's just use it as an example. If you're driving even from one side of the state to the next, you pick up 100 different radio stations along the way. Like I said, I know they're different, but it's just
Yeah.
if you're not used to it, if you're not used to the shortwave radio, like um, it's an interesting thought. But that I guess it see it has to be spies. It has to be
It has to
spies
be spies.
because because if it's continent wide, like
Why else would you? Yeah.
they'd have to know it it's for them no matter where they are in the country. You know? Like I don't know. That's
Yeah. Well, why else would you need to broadcast it that far,
right,
right?
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Um
Yeah.
so I guess to that you probably maybe might be a little bit harder to replicate that.
Yeah.
However, I think that if you really wanted to, you could probably do it.
Yeah, I mean, yes. If you really wanted to, yes, I would agree. But I don't know. I It would be interesting to read up and see if there have been people who've tried to replicate number stations. Um I don't know. I when I was doing some research on this, I also was reading up on pirate stations,
Okay.
which are basically people who don't have a license to broadcast. And so I feel like those are the people who would try and replicate number stations. I don't know.
So,
That'll be
uh,
an interesting thing
someone
to
in
research.
chat says that they believe that drug cartels try to use them somehow. What do you think about that?
Oh. So
Because I
instead of
could see that.
spies, it was like drug. Yeah.
I could definitely see that, especially if it's like Cuba during the Cold War, right? Maybe not necessarily drug cartels, but definitely people trying to. Because during the Cold War, we had like the embargo
Mhm.
on Cuba. Nothing came in, nothing left. Um, so there's got to be. I seriously, I think that as well. They say not just drug cartels, cartels in addition to spies, human traffickers, so on and so forth. And I think that it's. I would say it's a good chance that it was more than just spies. Um, however, knowing um, the U.S.'s uh, love of espionage. And I think I heard somewhere I watched a video today, and there was like 1,000 active spies overseas or something like that, or maybe it was more, maybe it was 10,000. Either way, I mean that's a lot of stuff.
10,000 active spies in the United States?
No, 10,000 active U.S. spies
Oh, US spies.
overseas
Oh,
in
god,
other
oh, wow.
countries. Um, now I don't
That's
know
a
if
lot.
that's. I would assume that's not. You know, look, all right,
I well, I
we're paranoid.
no, no, yeah. It's yeah, I mean that's an interesting thought. I think that the history of number stations uh, from my reading did come from sort of that wartime mentality.
Mhm,
That's why, I said I also got pretty heavy into cryptography and like code breaking because that was the whole wartime mentality is, how do we intercept messages
mhm,
from the enemy? How do we, figure out where they are, what they're planning? I mean, they were employing citizens at one point to, try and intercept messages as well.
mhm.
So I don't know, so kind of the with the current day state of things, it wouldn't surprise me if this kind of shortwave, uh, I guess, sending of messages and is used for something other than spies, quite
Yeah.
honestly.
Um.
But I know that the number of number stations today are much fewer than they were like 10, 20 years ago.
Oh yeah, for
So
sure.
yeah.
We also have greater technology, so we don't need to use shortwave radio. We have other ways that we could probably get information to spies. Um.
Well, that's one of the points of number stations is just the fact that it is literally impossible to decipher the code, whereas other methods may not be as reliable or could potentially be cracked or decoded. Um, so I don't know.
Right. No, I get you. I get you there. And so okay, so let's so we keep saying it's impossible to break it. So the way these codes are made up, so you listen to the station at a certain time. It comes on. It'll say, I don't know, 8, 3, 5, 7, 7, right, or something like that. It'll say some numbers, and the way
Mhm.
it works is whoever's broadcasting it has one code or one pad, one solution pad, and whoever's listening to said number station has the same number pad. They have the same pad, and
Mhm.
the way that they match it up on the pad so that it gives them their message, whatever it says. Um, and then after that message is done, that pad is no longer used because if you use it again, you increase the chances of whoever might be listening in to said number station being able to crack your code. So you just that's the basic gist of it. That's why it's impossible to break because it is literally one time that they use this combination of letters and numbers and then
Yeah.
they're done with it.
So I have an example on my screen. I don't know how easy it is to see or how easy it is to understand, but apparently this is an example of a one-time pad encryption. But the bare bones of this is just like Tin Man said. You have one. It's one code and one key, and that key is never used again. And so, like somehow you can decipher a message based on the code and the key. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, because I was excuse me, I was listening to a video earlier and it's like, oh, it's just addition and subtraction, and they add numbers to
It's
this,
just
and they subtract numbers from this, and they get their letter, and they match it up, and they get their message, and
it's so easy.
I'm thinking to myself, dude, that's way too much. Like, I would need a calculator and like 3 days to figure out a long message like that.
Yeah, yeah.
So I guess, obviously if you're trained in it because you're a covert ops specialist.
Yeah, I'm sure it's simple if you understand what you're doing, but
I'm
say that about
a
anything.
loser that doesn't know what he's doing. I should have studied code breaking, I guess.
Cryptography. Yeah.
Yeah. Why
Yeah.
aren't you a specialist on this?
I don't know. I
Maybe
felt like at 15 years old when I was looking at cryptography on Wikipedia that I really wanted to be someone who did that.
maybe Biscuit is a covert spy, and that's why she's bringing up number station.
Maybe I am. I think that reminds me of a comment I saw when I was watching some YouTube videos about it. But someone was like, "What if the people? Oh, what was it? No. What if the people who talk about number stations are the ones who use number stations or
Could be.
something? I don't know.
Could be.
Something, some kind of number station inception.
It could be. I mean, it's very possible. Um,
Anyway.
so we've talked about what they are. We've talked about what they're used for. We've talked about what it could be used for.
Mhm.
Um,
Do you want to talk about the different kinds of number stations?
there's different kinds.
There are.
Teach me, because I mean, I realized I got that there was like, I don't know. Go on, go on. I'm out of it.
So, yeah, so there are three kinds. There's, I believe it's music, numbers, and noise. I think those are
Okay,
the three kinds. Obviously, numbers. I think music is the other one.
you
I have to
don't.
double check.
Are you sure? Are you sure numbers is
Yeah,
one?
yeah, yeah. No, I mean, maybe. I don't know.
I was more okay. So I also, this is kind of off topic, um, but like they did them in Morse code sometimes. Did you see?
Oh, yes, sorry, it's Morse. It's Morse, numbers, and noise.
Okay,
I was like, it can't be music because how do they, yeah, no, it's Morse, numbers, and noise. Those are the three
okay.
different
Now
so, yeah.
now I'm with you. Of like, what would playing music help? Like,
Yes.
um, but
I
that I feel like okay. So if the whole point, I don't know. I don't know much about Morse code, but I do know that you spell out things with Morse code. And I'm
Yeah.
wondering how a Morse code number station would work. Would you,
Um,
I'm guessing you would Morse, like you just code out the numbers? Question mark? And then they would proceed from there with the adding and subtracting.
yeah,
But
so I
that's
think I have a sample of one if we wanna listen to it.
yes.
It's, it's just a bunch of beeping.
Can you send that to
I'll
me?
send you the link, yeah. Or I'll post it in chat.
Okay, that'll work.
Sorry, I forgot that you can't hear it.
It's fine.
But yeah, it sounds like it's just so obviously there's Morse code for numbers, and I think it's literally the dots are the amount that the numbers equal,
That's
if that makes sense. So
interesting.
anyway, lots of beeping.
So I do want to say, if you've never listened to a number, I find them creepy as hell to listen to. Um,
Oh yeah.
even if it's just numbers, it's just numbers, but it's really weird to hear like a digital voice just say numbers and then
Yeah.
repeat them over and over again. To me, I find it really like unsettling. Like, what is going on? What is happening?
Like
Um,
if you're listening to it in a dark room by yourself, it definitely gives you some weird vibes.
mhm.
But
It's like,
and like I mentioned before, so the more recent recordings, if you look on YouTube, are just the voice recording. But the older stations have music accompanying them, and those
Right.
are even creepier
I agree.
because it sounds like old. A lot of it's like old carnival music, or like I don't know. It's really strange.
Yeah. No, I agree. There's the famous one, what is it? The Lincolnshire something or other? Let me see. Lincolnshire Poacher is like
Yeah,
a famous one.
yeah. There are a
Um
couple of like older famous stations, all named after sort of like a distinguishing like noise or factor of the station.
yeah.
But yeah, I remember hearing about that one.
Yeah, and you're right, it does sound like old carnival music. Almost it almost sounds like dying carnival music.
It does, yeah.
Like when the merry-go-round is like coming to a stop and the music starts to die out. That's kind of what it sounds like.
I'm gonna
And
play a little bit on my stream,
okay,
and I'll link you.
yes, let's.
Oh yeah, it's definitely like weird carnival music. So then if you like,
Just it sounds so weird, man. And then it's
it
just
does.
like numbers, and then it's just numbers.
Yeah, yeah, it's really strange. The older ones are definitely pretty creepy, just because they sound old. Like
Yeah.
that makes sense, and so it just reminds me of like a I don't know, just like a creepy movie.
Yeah, and somebody in my chat says it's almost sickening. Like
Yeah,
it kind of
it's very
it
unnerving.
really yeah, it gives you an
Yeah.
unsettled feeling. I don't like it. Don't like it.
So if anyone is interested in listening to the old number station recordings, there's and Tin Man, I don't know if you came across this when you were looking at stuff, but there's a it's this archive. But they have a YouTube. You can actually buy these on CD, which shows you like how old this stuff is. But they've got like a 4 CD set of all these like old number station recordings. It's called the I don't know if it's Kone or
Yeah, I did come across this. Yeah,
Kone archive. So I'm
Conet.
yeah, so I'm putting a link in chat. But you can listen to all of these old number stations to your heart's content.
I'm gonna grab that YouTube real quick and push it in. Fine.
So
Um,
Astro in chat is asking what got me interested in cryptography.
she's a spy. Duh.
So I may or may not be a spy. Um, no, to be honest with you, I haven't really um, been into it in the past few years. I was super into it when I was younger, and I did a lot of research and just found it really interesting. I got deep into like there are quite a few like unsolvable codes and kind of like going through people's trials and tribulations of trying to solve those and who made them and I don't know it's I find it interesting but like I said I haven't done a lot of recent research except for this number stations uh podcast but yeah I don't know I think that anyone into like puzzle solving it's kind of got like a mystery aspect to it that I don't know it's just really cool
I
so
agree. I agree. And you know what's funny is it. So you hear about cryptography, whatever, and you think like code breaking, and it just like unless you know more about it, you probably think there's only like a few types of different codes, but there are like a ridiculous amount of codes.
yeah you would be wrong you would be dead wrong
Um,
if you thought that
there are an absurd amount of codes.
Mhm.
And people like devote their life to this, um
Yeah.
and they can like crack anything. There's people that can crack anything. They just like analyze stuff for years and they crack it, but not these number stations because it's one time.
Yeah.
And
They're
that's
impossible.
that's very weird. That I I wonder if anyone has actually tried to crack these old ones, like the
I mean,
really
I
old
don't
ones.
think that you could because they are literally meaningless unless you have the key. Um, I mean, I don't know, when you look at some of the, you know, codes, that people have broken,
Mhm.
it seems like impossible that they were somehow able to crack a code. Like it's I can't even
Right,
imagine being smart enough to do something like that, but like when you apply that to the number stations, just the fact that there literally is nothing to go off of. There's no
right,
way to ever solve this. It's kind of mind-boggling.
right,
And
exactly.
that's even after you see people solving actual codes that do have solutions,
Yeah.
and that in itself is completely bonkers, but yeah.
No, I agree. It's a very weird thing, those number stations. Because I mean, even if they like it's like you said, like there's only one solution. So you could sit there and listen to this thing over and over and over again and you would be hot.
I mean, you could technically, like, if you know how to solve, because I mean, you do, the method of how to solve it is known. You
Mm-hmm.
just don't have any information to go off of to use the key to solve it.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess theoretically you could assign your own letters and to the numbers and go through the key, but I would imagine that with the number of possibilities, you could probably come up with a number of phrases that could be real phrases, but you would still never know what, like, I don't know, what is the actual phrase, right? Or maybe.
Yeah,
May-
I mean you're right. Like it is it is
Maybe. Maybe I've got
theoretically
that wrong. I don't know.
it would be theoretically possible to quote unquote solve it, but would it actually be solved is
No.
the thing.
You
Because
you could apply the key
right,
using your own made up
right,
letters.
you could theoretically quote unquote solve it for whatever you wanted it to be. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So
Yes, you could create yeah, you could create a solution, but it would never be the actual message.
right.
Yeah.
I don't
Yes.
know. It's so Astro Saiyan says some codes would be reasonably unsolvable, right? Someone could make a bogus key with no patterns. Exactly.
Well, and
Um,
that's what I have trouble understanding with, like, modern day cryptography, because, like, the things that people have to go on to, because they could have this huge, puzzle in front of them, and they've got a single clue, yet somehow they manage to decipher, like, an entire puzzle based off of that one thing, and I'm just like, like, how is this possible, if you don't actually have all the parts? I don't know if that made sense, but it's hard for me to talk about cryptography because, obviously I don't know how.
yeah,
I'm just gonna
no,
leave it at that.
I get
So
you.
it's hard to talk about it, like, in a way that makes sense, I feel like.
No, I get you. It's so if you look up some of like the super complicated um uh codes and stuff that have been cracked, I'm sure you could probably find them on Reddit. Honestly, I'm sure there's a whole subreddit devoted to cracking codes and creating codes to be cracked. And um, but if you like looked at some of them, it would be it would probably blow your mind that someone was able to A, create it, B, come up with a solution, and C, have that solution be correct. And
Yeah.
so, like I said, like we've been saying, like with number stations, it's impossible to crack them without having the correct code, without having the correct solution in front of you. Um, which kind of makes you kind of makes at least makes me uneasy as to what information is being sent out via
Yeah.
these number stations. Um, we've already established that they're more than likely used for spies and covert ops and espionage. Um, but it's a little unsettling to think that there's so many different countries that use these for their various amounts of spies.
Oh,
And
that's yeah.
what?
Yeah. Oh, I was gonna say that's one of the things that I wanted to mention earlier, since we said that the number or the amount of number stations has dwindled
Mhm,
uh, like in the past few years. There are countries who are still very active, and I
mhm.
actually have a list of some of those most active places who use number stations,
Yes,
which I
let's
thought
hear
was
it.
very interesting. So those are Russia, Poland, the Ukraine, maybe France a little bit, Cuba, China, North and South Korea, and Vietnam. So those are the most active number stations.
Okay,
Yeah. So
okay,
just an interesting interesting list there.
okay.
And there are various languages, including English. But yeah, it's kind of interesting.
It is interesting, and it's okay. So my question is, how? Okay, I understand that. Let's say it's the U.S. and they have a spy, right, in
Mhm,
some country. I understand they're more than likely going to tell them, "Hey, listen to this radio station at this time," right?
mhm.
But for the people that are, I would assume that countries are monitoring these number stations that
Mhm.
are occurring in their country. So they,
I don't know, but the thing is, even if they monitored them, they're still untraceable.
right.
So and the code is uncrackable,
No, I
so
get
it's kind
that.
of like a lose-lose.
What I'm saying is someone has to be monitoring these number stations. Either they're monitoring them like 24/7.
Mhm,
They have somebody that's job is to just listen to the radio waiting for these number stations to pop up,
mhm.
or they're not monitoring them because they don't care, because they already know that some like espionage is going on. See, this is what I'm saying. It's all about paranoia because they know that someone they're doing something bad in other countries, so they just accept the fact that
That it's
people,
happening.
yeah, that it's happening in their country too.
I don't
It's
know,
got
I
to
feel
be.
like is it worth, like, having your own spies and no, I mean, I was like, what if you just look out for people who are listening to shortwave radios? But then
Yeah.
the problem is, like, here in the United States, there's a pretty sizable group of people who like shortwave radio is their big hobby,
Hmm.
and they record number stations regularly. They know which stations are active, like, when they come on, and they have just this archive. And so, so I guess that wouldn't really be, I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah, it is interesting to know for to be a country, I guess, and know that this is happening, but you really can't do anything about it. And is it
Yeah.
even worth having someone listening or having archives of these because they really will never mean anything to anyone else?
Yeah, I
I
mean,
don't know.
unless you happened upon the person the numbers station was meant for
That has the key,
that
but
has the key.
what are the odds? Like,
Yeah,
I
I
don't
mean,
like actual
like
odds.
that's the thing. Unless you lucked into that, um, it's you're right. There is no point in even paying attention to these number stations. But I'm sure someone out there that was their job was to listen to those number stations to try and get
I
any information they could.
Oh, yeah, yeah, I'm sure. I mean, nowadays, I don't know, again, if it would be worth it or if that is just something that the government might do. I mean, I don't know. Honestly, they could probably just crowdsource all of the archives from hobbyists if they ever needed to.
Probably,
'Cause
yeah,
it's all, like, public information that people are putting out there, so
yeah.
the horror historian said he's gonna make it his job to listen to all the number stations.
There you go. Do it.
That's a good plan.
Do it. I mean, somebody's got to do it. Somebody's got to do it.
Yep.
It
Horror
ain't gonna be
historian
me.
is gonna be that person.
If you find out that Biscuit's actually a covert spy, let me know.
I mean,
He won't be able to
may
let
or
me
may
know
not.
because you're gonna have him taken care of after the stream. I know it.
Yeah, right. Horror historian was never heard from again. Haha, haha.
Uh, you hear
Just a
the
joke,
Polish
horror
number
historian.
station? It played a creepy music box version of Swedish Rhapsody #1, followed by a female child reading the numbers in German. No, but that sounds creepy. First of all, thank you, Pirate Monkey, for that.
Oh, the
Um,
Swedish Rhapsody?
Swedish Rhapsody #1.
Yeah, so that's on the Kone
I
project.
will probably pass on listening to that because the Lincolnshire Poacher one is creepy enough for me. I don't need some creepy child reading numbers to me. Um,
Are you sure? Are you sure you don't need that to man?
I'm like 78% sure that I don't need that. Um, but yeah, I think the entirety of number stations is creepy when you think about it.
It's creepy, but it's also kinda cool. I don't know. I mean, even though we stations are 99.9%, spy stations that have secret messages, just the fact that they still exist and they're unsolvable and they're just out there floating around is just like creepy but cool. I don't know. That's
No, I
kind of what
agree.
I think about
It
it.
is really cool to think about. I still think it's creepy. Um,
Just creepy, creepy,
yeah,
not
it's
creepy cool.
creepy. It's creepy, but it's cool. But it's more
Yeah.
creepy than it is cool. Um, just saying. I still
Well,
think it's gonna all come back to it. All comes back to paranoia. It all has to.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I would say that. Well, yeah, that could be said for a lot of things, though.
That's true.
But especially in this case, especially with the number stations being tied to war and spies and all of
Mhm.
that, you know that paranoia is going to play a part in that.
Yeah, especially when it was. It seems to be mostly used during the Cold War. Um, at least from what I saw, which that was all about paranoia. So,
Yeah,
I mean, everybody was paranoid as hell during the Cold War. So
yeah.
it would only make sense that you have covert spies and stuff in your country doing stuff
Mhm.
they shouldn't be.
Yep. Well, was there anything else that you wanted to talk about or point out in terms of
Um,
number stations?
I don't think so.
I think we covered a lot of it.
Yeah, I think we covered pretty much everything.
I have one additional resource. So, again, it's sort of like parallel to number stations, but the cryptography page on Wikipedia has a lot of really good links at the bottom. Since we were kind of talking about cryptography as well, but there is, information theory, like global surveillance. People like a list of people who are like well-known cryptographers, discoveries, and unsolvable or well, not unsolvable, but currently unsolved uh, puzzles or I don't know problems. So I don't know. It's kind of cool. So check it out.
I'll to do that.
Oh wait, Pirate Monkey has an interesting little tidbit. Have you read about the one that uses a clip from Bugs Bunny? Is that a number station that uses a clip?
That my
'Cause
life.
I know that there were some. I think it's mostly the older stations that had clips of would sometimes have clips of people talking. Um, I don't know if they were from shows, if they were just recordings, but they would sometimes accompany the numbers. Oh yeah, so apparently there was one that used a clip from Bugs Bunny. It says the transmission was an 800 millisecond burst of compressed data, followed by the voice of a cartoon character. Yosemite Sam. That's interesting. When was that recorded? Or do you have a link to it, Pirate Monkey? I didn't come across that. Did you, Tin Man?
No, I did not. But that's
I will kind of
really
want to check it
creepy.
out.
That's what that is.
Yeah.
Super creepy.
Yeah, well, definitely share the link with us. Oh no, I forgot. Shoot, I have links disabled.
You
Um,
can.
can I change it on the fly?
I don't know. I was just saying that he could send it to me. I could send it to you.
Okay, yeah, send it to Tin Man, and I'll get a hold of it somehow,
Yes.
some way, somehow.
Yes.
Tin
Got
Man
it.
will deliver it.
Can I post links in your chat?
uh,
I'm a mod.
oh, maybe if you're a mod, yeah,
Find
because
out.
you can
Yeah,
post.
I can.
You can,
I can do that.
yeah,
Yeah. What am I thinking?
nice.
Thanks,
I
Pirate Monkey.
wanna watch it. Hold on, hold
You know
on.
what sucks is I had a idea for our next conspiracy review, and then I
Uh-huh.
forgot it.
What? You forgot it?
I
When did
did.
you think of
What?
when did you think
It was
of
like
it,
a
like,
couple
just
days ago.
now?
That was like a couple days
A couple
ago.
days.
Like a couple days ago, and I was like, dude, this is like the one we need to do, and then I forgot it in the past couple. I'll think of it again. Don't worry. And when I
Okay.
do, I'll message you and be like, hey, this is the one we need to do. It might
So
be at like 3 in the
this
morning though.
okay. That's fine. I will check it when I wake up.
Yeah.
So this is interesting, this clip, because it reminds me so it transmits on 4 frequencies. They can be turned in either USB or LSB modes. So, this kind of reminds me. So oops, sorry. I don't know if anyone else watches or is familiar with some ordinary gamers on YouTube.
No,
Um,
I don't know.
Shout out to Mudahar, but I've watched a lot of his stuff. And he does deep web videos where he goes onto the deep web and has links that he's curated and he takes a look at them. But he'll always have a video on there. And I remember that a few of the deep web videos um, actually had like encoded messages in them. So you could play the video as a normal video, but if you like went in to analyze the sound waves or the sound patterns within the videos, it would like generate a message or an image. Um, and it was really weird. I don't know if there's something we could do with that, if there's some sort of like conspiracy linked to that, but
Like
I think that would be
subliminal
like a cool
messaging.
topic. Maybe. I don't know if it's subliminal exactly or if it's more like hidden messages. So
Okay.
like you wouldn't really know to look for that unless you knew to look for that, you know what I mean? Or almost like Easter egg kind of stuff. I
Okay.
don't know, but more
So not subliminal
evil.
messaging.
Yeah, but or subliminal messaging would also be another interesting topic.
I agree because that is fascinating how they actually make it work. Um, Definitely a big one. Um,
And I'm sure we could get into all sorts of conspiracy theories around that and its application.
oh, for sure. Oh, for sure. We can
Yeah,
definitely do subliminal messaging. Um, because that stuff still happens today.
yeah,
Or you know what? Another one that's actually really good, that most people don't think about: advertising. Advertising is like one big conspiracy theory when you think about it, because they tell you what you should like. You know what I mean? Like, did you know that bacon wasn't originally a breakfast food
yeah,
until
yeah,
a doctor like paid him to say that it was, or an
yeah,
advertisement person told paid a doctor to say it was a breakfast food. Like,
yeah. Well, that's the whole. I mean, you could. Yeah, I haven't heard of that one, but I've heard of similar stories where something wasn't a thing until someone wanted to sell it,
mhm,
and then that became embedded in our
culture.
culture,
Yeah,
and it is really weird.
it's
That
super
actually
weird.
would be a really good topic because that's almost like it's partly subliminal messaging and partially like collective culture. I don't know. Uh, I don't know what to call that, but like,
I hear you. I know what you're saying.
yeah,
No, I think that
yeah.
would be a really interesting topic to talk about, actually.
Yeah, and I've actually watched some stuff on that, especially because I'm in marketing, and
Mhm.
it's
So you're the
and
problem.
well, well, what's interesting is well, not to get too far into it now, because I think this would be a really
We'll
good
hold off.
topic. But
We'll hold off. Nope. We're
okay,
gonna hold off.
well, let me say one thing
All right.
because the people who are advertisers definitely spin it in a way that where you wanna say, "Oh, yeah, like, it's great that this company knows that I searched for this item at 2 o'clock in the morning," like,
Yeah.
and then they turn around and because, I don't know, they have an interesting take on it, that's quite contrary to the public's take on, advertising and marketing, so, but
Yes.
yeah, no, I think that would be a really interesting topic.
Yes, I agree. So
Yeah.
we'll figure out a time to do that. Maybe
Okay.
next. Maybe next. Who knows?
Maybe next. I
Who
mean, we could
knows?
actually tie those together, subliminal messaging and advertising.
Maybe. Yeah, we could.
D
Sure.
double it up, double the fun.
Double the pleasure, double the gum.
Yep.
All right.
Alrighty.
Um, that's all I got.
That's all I also got.
Okay.
Um, I'm glad we got to talk about this,
Yeah,
to deep dive into one of my childhood, like, mini obsessions, so it was good.
I agree. Um, Other than that, guys, I have nothing else. If you want to give your you want to give a future idea for a Tin Biscuit talk, get in touch with either myself or Biscuit, or you can hit us up on Twitter at TinBiscuitR, or via email tinbiscuitreviews at gmail.com.
Yep.
All I got.
Send us all your good conspiracy ideas so that we can talk about them on stream.
Yes, I we need more interesting ideas to talk about, because I really enjoy our talks about uh, conspiracy
Weird stuff.
theories and stuff. Yeah, weird stuff,
Yeah.
iffy stuff, weird stuff.
All right. Well, we'll keep an eye out for those. If you guys want to send something over. And thank you to Man for being an awesome
Thank you,
co-host.
Biscuit.
And it's been a pleasure as always.
Yep.
And I look forward to next time.
Yep. Me too.
All right. See ya.
See ya.